Aloha and welcome to the Big Island Hawaii Ultra podcast. And our interview today is with Sara Stover. We actually did it yesterday on Saturday. This is Easter, so happy Easter. Hopefully you can hear the birds chirping in the background over here on the side yard. But again, thanks for tuning in. And if you want to help us out, you can go to our Patreon site, which is www.patreon.com/ultra. So please enjoy. Aloha! We have Sara Stover here.
Aloha!
Happy Saturday. This is Easter weekend Saturday. And this would have been the 39th annual Macathon 5K, 10K race down in Honau now. And
one of my favorites.
A beautiful race, very deceptively, don't you think? Looks flat, right?
Yeah.
But isn't, and it's hot.
Yeah, my first time running that race, I remember running past like the corpse of a cow and being like, where is this taking us? It was that cow corpse kind of embodied my whole Macathon experience.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's been my, we're in the midst of this COVID-19 thing everywhere. And one of the things that they say is you lose your sense of smell.
Okay.
And there is a dead pig up on Manaus Road from last winter, basically, from like months ago that I hadn't smelled it in months. And the weather got a little bit warmer and it's like, oh, nope, still got a sense of smell.
That's a good sign.
So
it would be nice to like have it like you could turn it on and off. Like how that turn it off.
Well, that would be asthma, which I have too. But so, where were you raised as a child, Sara? You're back in upstate New York.
Upstate New York, which I would like to take this moment to explain to people that when I say I'm from New York, I lived 7 hours away from New York City. Like this lovely background you have of like the farm country and the cows and the horses, that is a lot like where I grew up. Only there was snow and it's a lot flatter. Rochester, New York is where I'm originally from. And then I went to school in Buffalo. People don't always know Rochester, but they seem to know Buffalo. So that is where that's where I was until I was 22 years old.
So Buffalo was the nearest big city, or was there another?
Rochester is actually a city too. And so there's Rochester and Buffalo. They're comparable cities. They're notable for different reasons. And in between is just really farm country.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And vineyards.
I went to school in Minnesota and stuff. So when you say Rochester, I'm thinking of Rochester, Minnesota.
Right. Most people don't think of Rochester, New York. Yeah.
Do you have brothers, sisters? What's your sibling situation?
I have a younger brother, Aaron, who's a tattoo artist in Philadelphia. And my sister, Becky, lives in Massachusetts with her husband, Daniel. And they have a little girl. My brother has a little girl, too. And my sister is a therapist for, is she a therapist, life coach? I think technically she's considered a therapist for people who have learning disabilities, autism, Asperger's, who are getting into higher education. So they're smart enough to get into college, but they don't function well in like classrooms. So yeah, my sister's very intelligent. My brother and sister are both very intelligent. My brother's just incredibly talented. If anyone needs a tattoo, when we're allowed to do that again, yeah. I actually don't have one, oddly enough, but my parents are in North Carolina. So the funny thing is that I was the last person in my immediate family to leave New York, the state of New York.
Oh.
By the time I moved, they were all like, why did you stay so long? Everyone was like, snow, cold, I'm out of here.
Yeah, well, I used to have a girlfriend from North Carolina. She was a preacher's daughter, and when I interviewed Jacob, I didn't realize he's from Tennessee, and he said like 30 minutes away from where they do the Barclay.
Oh, cool.
So that's good. So, but I mean, your background then is rural. It's not big. You're not a big city girl or anything like
Nope.
that.
Nope. I don't do well in big cities. I really don't. They're fun for about like 2 days, and then I think I'm too ADD to be in like a big city environment. What do I look at? Lights, billboards, people.
Squirrel.
Yeah,
So
definitely ADD for that.
when you were in high school and stuff, were you on any teams? Did you play soccer?
Yeah, I actually have been swimming since before I could walk, says my dad. He had me in water babies. Supposedly I was swimming and talking before I could walk. But my dad put me in water babies, and I was just like water babies and swimming lessons, and then eventually swim team. And running was just like something you did at the beginning of the season as part of like conditioning when I was on the swim team.
So you kind of had a heads up on triathlon. Did you do triathlon when you were in high school?
No, nope. I didn't run other than what my swim coach told me to run. Although the cross country coach was always on my case to go out for cross country because, they make you do like the mile once a year.
Yeah.
Like President's Challenge or something, some name like that. And I guess I ran fast enough for him to want me to go out for cross country. But all my friends swam, and that was all I did. So I was like, why would I run? No, I'm a swimmer. So.
And swimming, at least, now I have some background in people that I've known that have been involved in the Olympics, in fact. And it's very competitive. Were you competitive when you were swimming, or?
I wasn't. I really just was like, I've just always swam. And I was like the kid who would get in trouble because I was talking to all my friends. Like it was supposed to be like, okay, 15 seconds on the wall and then go again. Okay, 50, you're doing these, I don't know, training sessions where you're supposed to be like not letting your heart rate go down. And I'd be like talking to my friends, and my coach, who was also my next door neighbor, Debbie Harding, would be like, Sarah, zip it. So yeah, I was definitely in it for like the socializing, and just a lot of my friends swam. So it was just like, oh, that's just what I'm doing. I mean, I pushed myself, but like pushing yourself when you're actually having a meet is one thing. Like when the gun went off and I was off that block, I would push myself, but I was never going to be one of the best swimmers because during practice I was goofing off.
So when did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to State University of Buffalo, SUNY Buffalo.
Oh, SUNY, yeah.
Yeah.
And swimming there too?
Nope, I did not swim competitively there. I got in the pool every once in a while because you just could. It was at the fitness center. But I really just focused on like I didn't even really have, I think I worked 10 hours a week, wasn't really part of anything extracurricular except for Campus Crusade, and then just focused on my studies. I was really like, I had a plan and I was out of there in 4 years, and I was like, no, I don't have time for anything else. I've got this like life plan, and I need to be 21. I'm out of here.
That sounds like a good plan. I was probably a little bit the opposite because I went to college until I was 26. I ended up with a couple of degrees and stuff like that, which have done me no good whatsoever. But it was experience the college lifestyle for as long as possible.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that when I interviewed you for a Runner Click article, actually.
Now I can claim. Well, that was so long ago, I can't remember some of the stuff that I did.
But I have it documented somewhere.
It was funny. Alex was saying she was texting me last night about her and Billy were watching the band, Robbie Robertson and those guys, and I kind of went, "Nah, I'm not going to tell her the stories that I could tell her about those guys."
Not yet.
Either in
Look
the wrong
here for when I write a book about you, then it'll come out.
No. Remember, this is about you. This is about Sara Stover.
Who
So,
might write a book someday about you?
speaking of writing, quick, I mean, for sure, talk about the stuff, the articles that you've had published, the publications you've worked for,
Okay.
your blog.
Yeah. So what I did go to school for was English. And really, I can say that I've known, not that I wanted to be a writer, but just known, like, I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, probably since I was 10 years old. Somebody gave me a little notebook or journal or something when I was 10, and I started, it was like kind of like my diary, but then I started like fabricating things and making up like there was like Sarah Real World, and then there was like, but what I really imagine is that there's like this Sarah out there who's having these adventures. So it was supposed to be a journal, but I kind of let my imagination run wild because nobody was ever going to see that. And I had like all these made up things in this journal, and went to school for English so that I could study all the renowned writers and learn from them so that I could be a better writer. The first thing
you have a couple of favorite writers?
Mark Twain, definitely Mark Twain. I love Louisa May Alcott and Ellen Montgomery. So the Anna Green Gables books and Little Women, and I'm trying to think who else. What is this? Patrick got me into this guy. Hold on.
Hunter Thompson. No,
it's like this is my. I didn't know about him. I don't know how you say his name. Paola Coelho. Can you see? He wrote like The Pilgrimage, the Alchemy book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Degree in English here.
Yeah. Another English degree person. So who else? I'm trying to look over at my bookshelf. There's 4 Mark Twain books up there. Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare so much. If Shakespeare was indeed one person, but anyway.
So how did your writings, after you were doing your journal, and then it kind of developed into more fiction, a little bit more fiction in there. What was the next stage of your writing that you remember back?
It would then became poetry. Yeah. And I was in middle school, and I think it was like Desert Storm was going on. And
God, I'm old.
Yeah, I must have been like in 7th grade, and everybody in 7th grade like decided one day that they were gonna like have a protest, like in the 60s. And we were gonna go protest, man. Okay, and so I remember thinking like, you guys are gonna like all get up and march out of your classrooms at the same time, and like, how is it gonna accomplish anything? Who is the president? Are you gonna make it onto the news? Is the president gonna pay attention? And you know what? I'm going to pull out troops because those like 110 middle schoolers just protested. And I remember being like, this is so dumb. And I didn't walk out. I stayed I was probably the only kid who stayed in my classroom because I was like, this doesn't make sense to me, so I'm not going to do it. But I stayed back in the classroom and I wrote a poem about what I thought it would be like to be there and be one of those soldiers. And my English teacher was like, yeah, my English teacher was like, why, what are you doing? Everybody marched out. And I was like, yeah, but it's a waste of time. They're wasting their time. I was like, I wrote a poem, and I showed it to her, and she got it. Somehow she got it published in the local paper.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of like this aha moment for me, where I realized, like, I reached more people, and I don't know, like, made a difference to a certain extent than everybody else kind of following the leader and being sheep. And I kind of went, like, okay, I'm 12 years old, but like, I can think for myself, and I can write these things that, like, I can get through to more people by writing things that matter. And that was kind of like my, like, oh, this is my vehicle in the world. This is my platform.
You realized that you had a louder voice through the medium that you were actually using. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the rest of, and I never wrote that thinking, oh, it'll be in the paper and everyone will hear about it. But here were all these kids who were hoping they'd get on the news or have somebody write about what they did in the paper. And here I am, like, well, I just wrote this because it was in my head, and that's what ended up in the paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you got to college, did you stay with the poetry, or did you just...
Poetry, writing plays, of course, papers. Or if you studied English, you'd know that's such a huge component of getting your degree in English. Write papers about what you read. But yeah, on my own, and because I had assignments to do so, I was writing short stories, poetry, yeah, and a couple plays I wrote. So that was, and I did it all in 4 years. Like, I only planned on
smarter than me.
4 years, and yeah, I stuck to that.
Did you ever have? I can still remember we did a Middle English, an Old English dinner at one of the English professors' houses and stuff, where we went over and made food. And he somehow back then found mead, so we drank mead.
No way. I keep telling the B-boys that should be the next thing. We've discussed this. There needs to be Big Island mead.
we can talk. We can get a hold of Alex, and she can talk to the winery.
Oh yeah, maybe they can join forces.
We have friends who brew beer. We know that too. So there's always an opportunity. So when you were in college and stuff, were you too busy trying to get through college and that? Did you have boyfriends, girlfriends that anybody want to mention?
My first boyfriend in college, yes. Yep. Most of sophomore and junior year, a little bit of senior year, but he went away he joined the Air Force when I was a junior, I believe. So it was long distance, and then he broke it off, but not before he flew me out to Monterey, California. So yeah, I got like my first real, like, I got on a plane and flew somewhere by myself. That was the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then what did you think when you got into California? I know because it was military, you were probably just, hanging out at the military base and stuff. But
actually, the boyfriend was at school. He was going to be like a translator, and he was at school during the day. So I had a hotel room in town. So I would just go, like, I would take my backpack and my journal, of course, like it was probably like my 93rd journal at that point. And I found some like cool coffee shops, and I would just go and like take out my journal or walk down to the pier and then go to the coffee shop and like did a lot of sightseeing and writing, and really couldn't like see something and not like open my journal and write about it.
Oh, wow.
My journal was actually factual by that time.
So the different change in weather too, I imagine, even depending on what time it was.
Yeah, I even thought about going to grad school there. I loved Monterey, California.
Oh, it's beautiful there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
gorgeous and stuff there. So after California, well, after college and stuff, then did you go pursue like a newspaper career?
No, and it's funny. A lot of people ask me, "Oh, what are you going to do with an English degree?" And um, people kind of flat out told me, "Well, if you're an English major, you can teach or you can work for a newspaper." And and I just kind of like in my gut was like, there has to be more that I can do with this. So my first real job out of college was working for, this is not very glamorous, but it was the Northeast Professional Insurance Association. So it's like
Okay.
if you were an insurance salesman or agent, I guess is what they prefer to be called. They all belong to this association. And I worked in the marketing department and I wrote all the press releases
Oh,
and
okay.
I wrote copy for the website for different landing pages. Can't remember what else I wrote because it was like 20 years ago. But I was like, okay, this isn't like the coolest thing to write about, but within a year of graduating from college, I was getting paid. I was like, I knew there was something else I could do besides work for a paper or teach.
Yeah, and they paid you money, right?
Yes, yeah, it was cool. And I moved from Rochester, well, Buffalo, to Albany for that job. So it was about a
Okay.
4 hour difference. I was about 4 hours from my family who was still in Rochester at that time. Um, but I was like, I was just excited that people were like, I didn't really care what I was writing about. People were paying me like to hand them words.
Yeah, but yeah, really. Did you have side projects at that time? I know, there's your job and it involves writing, but was there stuff where you were working on a book?
My free time, this is when I got into running. When I moved to Albany, that's what I started doing in my free time. Um, in fact, the first 5K I ever did was as it was part of the corporate challenge team. This insurance association put together a team and all the different businesses in Albany, like they do this 5K and compete against each other. So that was the first actual race I ran.
How did it go?
I just remember thinking that it was fun, and I think I ran it in like soccer shorts and like a cotton t-shirt, and but I liked it. I thought it was like whoa, it's like a party, only everybody's like moving, and I was like I don't know, 22, probably 22.
Oh, wow.
And I had run a little bit the summer before with friends when I was working at a hotel. I worked at a hotel when I graduated from college before I got that other job. And so like I think I was like, okay, I've run as much as 5 miles. But I didn't know what I was doing. The night before I think I ran like 5 times before I did that 5K.
It's
Over the
training,
course of
right?
a month. Over the course, like I was like, I know it's coming up. I know it's coming up. I should probably go for a run. And I would do that like once a week.
So was running a way of getting out of your head or into your head?
Uh, so other than that 5K, I realized rather quickly that I didn't like running with other people.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
like I liked being like, okay, there's something on, I have this, and I did other 5Ks after that one. I think I did 2 or 3 a year for a while. And I liked having like a race on the calendar and knowing like, okay, on this day, I'm going to be running with a good bunch of people and I will be like I'll be prepared for that. But most of the time I just wanted to run before work to just get in like I don't get focused
Uh-huh.
and be ready to write, because when you're writing, that's a lot of just like you have to be still for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
And that was really hard for me. I love writing, but I also have a lot of energy. So kind of running kind of like calmed me down enough that I could sit and write.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, because I can remember still that for me, a lot of people say the best ideas come in the shower. for me, it
And
was always, yeah, and for me, it was
yeah.
always running. It was when I was able to, everything else went away and I was able to focus on
Mhm.
right how I
Yeah,
wanted.
that was another aspect of it that I really appreciated, and I think pushed me to run by myself. And I felt really bad because there were um, people would come in and out of my life who would be like, "I want to go running with you," and I'd run with them, and I'd be really annoyed because I'm like, I can't think when you're next to me talking, and I was like, oh, not everybody runs to think, but it really was my time to like calm down, but also I worked through a lot of things. I came up with a lot of ideas uh, while I was running. Yeah.
Oh, I had a partner, she would always we do the Basalt, Colorado half marathon. And Becca could talk the entire race, which I took that as a easy out for me. I didn't have to say anything.
In a race environment, I'm talkative, but if it's just my like daily run, I don't want to talk. I want to just like let me go in my little zone and let me think through things. I have this idea, I need to process it. Stop talking. Patrick's great to run with, like I could really run with him, but like the 3 times I've run with him, he is, I think he reads people. He's very happy either being quiet or talking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can
You
see it.
know, like, oh, she's putting a blog together in her head right now, so I'm just gonna be quiet.
It's great to be around people who have what I call it situational awareness.
Yeah,
Instead of the focus necessarily just being on them, they can actually realize, well, there's other things going on. There's other people and stuff.
yeah,
And they're okay to be with. But I'm like you. It's like just going out for runs and stuff. I need that time just by myself.
yeah. And like if I see, like I'll see you on a road, and I'm like, cool, that was a fun little like commercial break.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very well put. I like
Yeah.
that.
But then I can be like, okay, and now I can like get a selfie with Joe and be on my way and go
So
back into my head.
how did you go up from 5Ks? Did you start doing 10Ks, half marathons?
Uh, so I started working at a marketing firm. I left the insurance association, and there was this guy there, Marathon Eddie. Hi, Eddie. I'm gonna make you watch this because I'm giving you a shout out. Marathon Eddie, who would like travel all over during marathons. I remember he went to Honolulu and did the Honolulu Marathon, and we were all like tracking him from the office. And he convinced me to do a 15K. So I jumped from 5K to 15K, and here was like my logic. I was like, well, I will go out the next 2 weekends and see if I can run 8 miles. And if I can run 8 miles 2 weekends in a row, then I'll sign up for the 15K. And I think I was at like 4 or 5 miles and jumped to 9.3. And so I signed up, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun. It's in Utica, New York, which is just like podunk, like kind of the beginning of the Adirondack Mountains. But they
Yeah,
shot down the entire like town, city. It's very industrial. Not industrial, it's like industrial but rural. Anyway, it's a weird town, but they shut it down for this race. And it is, last I heard, it was the biggest 15K in the US or oldest. There's something,
wow. Well,
you'll
that's a
have
long
to
distance.
fact check this. There's something about it that it's like, it's famous. It's called the Utica Boilermaker, and it
Wait, were
ends.
the Boilermakers involved?
Yeah, well, it's like the Utica boilerplates are like
Oh, so there weren't beers with shots in them.
no, but Saranac, it ends at the Saranac Brewery, and
Oh,
they give you Saranac beer at the end, and there's like a band playing and thousands of people. It's like it turns into like Woodstock, only with runners drinking at 9 in the morning, music playing. But while you're doing the race, every mile, or you go through all these neighborhoods, and all the neighborhoods are competing to be like the most spirited
oh, wow.
because they want the runners to vote. They win a block party if they're the most like fun neighborhood. They go crazy. DJs set up in like someone's lawn. Other people are like handing out beer at like mile 3, popsicles. Like there were belly dancers. There was like
Sounds
a
like
bunch
my
of
kind
guys
of
in
race.
kilts playing bagpipes, and then people dress up in costumes in the middle of July. It's people are crossing the finish line with beers in their hands, and it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people. That was my first 15K. That was like when I graduated from 5Ks.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And so far up until that point, though, you'd been strictly road runner.
Yeah, just road running.
When did you find or had trail running? Did that
Uh,
come up?
Actually, it was, well, no, I did a couple trail races, but it didn't stick because I got into triathlon. But my first trail race was called the Indian Ladders race, and I remember like I ran it in probably like Saucony Grid Stables, or just like a road shoe, and 15K through these trails. And at one point we ran through mud and my shoe got like sucked off my foot.
Yeah.
And like there was another point where like we were grabbing tree branches to pull ourselves up the side of a hill, and I thought, I was like, this is so much fun. Like, so obviously like there has to be an element of fun or I'm not interested. Like there has to be like guys playing big pipes or something crazy, like I don't know, ropes to climb. Or beer. So I did that, and then I think the same people who put that race on put on another one that was like a 10K that I did. Oh no, I did. Xterra had a trail race and triathlon in Lake Placid.
Oh, okay.
And I did not the triathlon, but I did the trail race, which was also a 15K. And
So then you were actually biking and doing that stuff.
no, they did like the trail race on Saturday and the triathlon on Sunday.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I think they only did it for like a year, but that was another one where I was just like, this is so much fun. We're just like running through the woods, and I met some people from like Quebec and ran with them, and and I know why it didn't. I know why I stopped doing it, and triathlon came into my life. But I remember like a lot of times when I had moved on and I was so into triathlon, I would like daydream about trail running. Like my heart was always in trail running. My heart was never really in triathlon.
Did you do your first marathon as part of a triathlon or just
I did my first marathon after signing up for Ironman Lake Placid because I realized, oh no, wait, did I? No, I did. Lava Man was my first triathlon in 2009.
Yeah.
And then that was in March, and by July, I had done a half. It was called Muscle Man in the Finger Lakes in New York.
Oh, I kind of heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, another fun one. You run through a vineyard at one point in that race, and you're going past like all these Amish farms on your bike. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but after I did that half iron, I went like, if I could do a half iron, I can definitely do a marathon. Like that was my logic, was like, if I can propel myself forward for I think it took me 6 hours to do that first half. I was like, I was moving for 6 hours. Surely I could do a marathon.
Oh yeah.
And did Hampton Beach. It was like the Smutty Nose. What is with me and the beer sponsored races? I mean, it was called the Smutty Nose marathon in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
I want to say that was 2010.
Oh, okay. But
yeah.
You did Lava Man, so in 2009?
Yeah.
So why did you come to Hawaii? To do Lava Man? No, you were here like in 2004, weren't you?
Yes. I started coming here in 2004. I was married before just someone whose parents had a condo here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we would come here to visit them. And we would like come here and hear about all these races and heard about Lava Man, and that turned into me racing Lava Man. I think someone just dropped off my new yoga mat.
Oh, awesome.
I see the box.
Saturday delivery. Hey.
Woo! This quarantine thing has me like so excited about dumb things like Mal.
Oh yeah, I got my digital thermometer today after having ordered it a month ago.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, like things take forever to get here anyway, and then you throw this into the mix. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Oh, there's a Lava Man coming over here and starting to, experience Hawaii. I mean, gosh, I'm surprised that you and I didn't run into each other since you were here that far back.
Yeah. Yeah, although we might have, and you might have like just known me by a different name. Also, like when I was here, the first couple times I came over, we were still here to visit family. So like I was doing races, but I wasn't hanging out with the athletes really until I met Bree and Kavika. And yeah, and they got like, once I met them, I was kind of like, sorry, I know I'm here to visit you guys, but I have these new cool friends and they're going on this like run adventure. So bye.
See ya.
Yeah.
So you did up to marathons then, and you've done some trail work.
Mm-hmm.
What's the longest run and trail run that you've done? Are they one and the same? Or?
The longest trail run I've ever done is, well, like on my own 16 miles, but a half marathon. But I always wanted to do like a 50K trail race. But I found trail running after I kind of like retired from triathlon and from Ironman. And I started running on trails again because of my injury. So like it makes me kind of sad actually that I'm like, man, if I could go back and tell like 30-year-old Sarah, like throw this whole triathlon thing out the window, just do trail running. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get past like half marathon either on roads or trails. I don't know if like my body will allow me to do long distance again. And it doesn't matter what like surface I'm running on.
So when you're doing triathlons, how many you did? Have you done a full distance Ironman?
I've done Ironman Lake Placid 3 times. I did it 3 times in 4 years. And in between was doing like, it was like Ironman marathon. I think one year I did 30 races, triathlons and road races in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about the injury, what happened, or you want to just move on?
Sure. Yeah, actually, I've learned not to call it an injury because when you hear injury, you think something that you can heal from.
Yeah.
I have a condition in my hip, and this is where I'm going to plug Ryan Godfrey at Change the Game Performance Therapy because he's changed the way I'm thinking about this. So I have basically it's like a bone spur in my hip where your hip should, so like your hip should sit in the socket, but like picture that this is my thumb is this bone spur, so it won't sit right.
Oh, okay.
So if you're running over time and your hip is not lined up in that socket, it causes all sorts of imbalances. Then you start compensating, and then it's actually caused it. There's cartilage in there that it's wearing away my labrum.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of a labral tear in there. But that's what the MRIs show, and that's what every doctor keeps like pointing out. Like, well, you knew this and you kept running anyway. You shouldn't have. As soon as you saw that on the MRI, you should have stopped running. But since working with Ryan, he's really like taught me that I could have that could have been there forever. There's people who have that their entire lives and it never causes them issues.
Yeah.
They might have it in their shoulder or their hip or wherever, and it never causes issues. So his thought is that when I notice pain, because I saw that MRI, I think that's what's causing the pain. He thinks it's just years and years and years of neglecting stretching, neglecting strength training, only like swimming. So going like I was always in this one plane of motion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just have all these imbalances and compensations because of it.
That visualization, that is, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, he had me do a squat and he was like, look at the way that knee caves in and that one doesn't, and that one goes over your ankle. And he was like, that has nothing to do with the joint. That has to do with muscle imbalances. So he was like, no wonder it hurts you to run. If you, when you run, you're exaggerating those, like you're exaggerating one-legged squats and lunges. So if I'm not balanced, when I'm just standing on one leg and then I ask my body to then move fast and far with that like terrible form, no wonder I'm in pain.
What, you haven't been sold on a certain shoe will fix that?
No, in fact, there is a blog that I didn't work with Ryan on this blog, but he wrote one himself about how if there was a shoe that fixed people's problems, everyone would be wearing it.
Oh yeah, well, and every shoe manufacturer will tell you it's their shoe.
Yeah.
And what do you run in now? What do you basically
right now I'm running in New Balance. It's like 14 something, 15 something. My favorite shoe ever, though, they do not make anymore, the New Balance Vazi Summit, and it's a trail shoe, but I actually ran on roads with it because it was so like it fit it was like made for my foot. I loved that shoe. I bought like the last 3 pairs on eBay. Really, I think they were the last 3 pairs because I've checked and they're gone.
Yeah, I did that
all New Balance. Make them again.
I did that with the original Cliftons, where they changed the model and stuff, and it's like I actually went to Melissa down at Big Island Running Company, and I said, "You got any of those Cliftons left?"
Yeah, I was like trolling eBay, like, yeah, they don't make. I called New Balance. I was like, "Do you guys just happen to have any?" You know, then they didn't.
Yeah, I ran for a lot of years in New Balance because they were the only manufacturer that made a 4E. I have a wide foot.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I went through the 889s and 990s and a bunch of other ones.
Okay.
What do you have? What do you have as far as any other equipment that you use on a regular basis? Do you use any pack or anything like that? You know, that's your.
I use a Camelback. I don't. It's like a medium size one. And I haven't ever gone far enough where I've needed anything bigger than that Camel. It like comes halfway down my back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's just Camelback's the brand. I don't even know what it's the name of the actual pack is. What else do I use?
Socks, any particular? Do you wear in Gingy socks or?
I wear Right socks.
Oh.
I love them. I think I got them I had a pair that I ran or had for hiking, and they're like double. They're like the anti-blister sock.
Yeah.
They're just it's WRIHT Right sock. I love them.
Oh, okay. And when you does it bother you to run? Well, again, I feel bad. We're rubbing it into everybody else in the world. Does it bother you to run in hot weather? You know, having been
no, actually, but between my hip and just for a lot of reasons, I had a really hard time running in the cold. I had a hard time breathing. My hip would bother me. I never seemed to loosen up. And I'm weird. I like running in the heat.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I was raised in the Midwest and went to school in Minnesota. So
Yeah, it's
uh,
like such a treat to run. Like I'm like when we lived in LE Drive last year, I was like, this is so awesome. I could just go out in like shorts and a sports bra and run. It's like so different from what I had in the Northeast. I mean, when I was training for the Boston Marathon the first time, my last long run was a 20-mile run and it was high of 3 degrees. Yeah.
yikes.
And I hate it. I was so miserable. I just cold makes me miserable. I
How
don't
many
like it.
times have you done Boston?
I did it once. I did it in 2014. I did it the year after the bombing.
Oh wow, that must have been very, very emotional.
It was I crossed the finish line with some women who were not able to finish the year before because they were pulled off the course. Met them in the middle of the race and ended up I make friends in the middle of races all the time. Ended up hearing like their whole story about what happened to them in 2013 and then crossed the finish line with them, holding hands with them. We're all
Oh,
crying.
oh,
Yeah, it was really cool.
that's very, very special. Did you write
Tony
it?
was I kept in touch with one of the girls, Tony, and she just got engaged. Congratulations, Tony.
Did you write anything about that though? I mean,
Yeah, I did. Somewhere there's a blog about it. I'll have to find that was on like my old blog and I wrote about that whole it was the the theme that year was taking back the finish line.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
remember.
and I had tried to qualify for Boston before and I really like I felt like I was supposed to be part of that one. I was supposed to be part of taking back that finish line. Um, Even if that's I never do another Boston Marathon, I'm so grateful that that was the one I got to do.
Oh yeah, that's really special.
Wearing a red or no, a what color tutu was I wearing? I think I ran in a oh my gosh, I know I ran in a tutu, either like a blue tutu or a black one. And
Oh,
yeah,
perfect, perfect. Nutrition. What do you use for nutrition? Are you
uh,
vegan?
I was a honey. Well, when I needed nutrition, now I don't run that far, at least not right now. Honey Stinger Chews.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of GI issues. I'm like gluten intolerance and other things. So I found that really the only thing that I could take in that wouldn't come back out was Honey Stinger Chews for running, and then Scratch Mix
Oh, yeah.
for just for electrolytes, and then flat Coca-Cola if I'm doing Ironman. Um,
Oh, okay.
for Ironman Lake Placid, it's 2 loops of everything: 2 loop swim, 2 loop bike, 2 loop run. And that second loop of the run, I would have I had like a Nathan handheld fuel, the
Yeah,
Nathan fuel, whatever. It's not a fuel belt; it's the handhelds
the
because
bottle. Yeah.
fuel belts drove me nuts. And I would have Coca-Cola that I had let go flat in that.
Well, it's funny because the whole Coca-Cola thing, having been the aid station director for like 20 years, it went through a few cycles. Originally, it was all the athletes wanted, the Ironman athletes wanted it flat.
Yeah.
And then it turned around for the last 10 years, probably, or 8 to 10 years. They want it fizzy because they want
Oh,
something that they can belch.
oh, to make that, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Sometimes if you're running, you can just tell you're like, if I could just burp, I would feel so much better.
Yeah. Of course, now once you get into the heavy duty trail running, and I'm sure Bree has probably told you about this, it's called earning your tie. It's where you go off onto the trail, and I told this a couple of times before about doing Rocky Raccoon last year. I still in the middle of the night out on the trail running along, and all of a sudden from the darkness you hear as somebody throws up in the
Yeah.
darkness. With that, you earn your tie when you do that.
Yeah, it always came out the other way for me, which is really inconvenient because you can like puke in the bushes, but like other things you really shouldn't do in the bushes. Yeah, I just
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and actually when I other than honey stinger and scratch mix, I made a lot of my own stuff. So I would do salt potatoes
Oh, yeah.
on the bike when I did Ironman. And then I would make my own Rice Krispie treats, but I would use peanut butter and honey
Ooh,
instead of marshmallows and butter.
ooh,
Yeah.
that sounds really, really
And
tasty.
those are really like, it had to have like super simple ingredients. Otherwise I couldn't digest it.
Oh, PB&J.
Yeah. Gluten, the bread.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that training for my first triathlon. I was like, why is my stomach upset every single time I do a long ride or a long run? And it was like everybody else around me was like, oh, this is what you bring, peanut butter and jelly. And so it took me like the first couple months of training to realize like, okay, just because everybody else is eating that doesn't mean it's going to work for me. And I didn't know why. I just knew it upset my stomach.
Yeah. So what do you think the triathlon season, since you have been in triathlon, what do you think the triathlon season is it gonna, you think it's gonna happen the rest of the year? I mean, so far I had to cancel two of my races, the path races.
Yeah.
Lava Man, Jerry just, I think, made a wise decision and she canceled Lava Man. She didn't try to delay it. And Macathon would have been today, so that was just canceled. And the next race, technically the next race coming up would be Kona Marathon in the middle of June.
Yeah.
And I checked the webpage this morning and Brent hasn't posted anything about it being delayed. And Honu got canceled in June, first week in June. Do you think they're going to be able to pull it off? I mean, there's a lot of qualifier races that are stacking up before October. So
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like if it's a race like Macathon, if it's a race like that where it really kind of just attracted like the local crew, I feel like, okay, perfect example. Like this is not really triathlon though. I was gonna say I think Kau will probably happen.
oh, okay. That's
I don't.
August, yeah.
Actually, I think that's the end of September.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the Mana 10s in August. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, even that, I feel like races like that where it's not people aren't really traveling to Hawaii for that race. And maybe we'll all be allowed out of our houses by then. I don't feel like those races, I don't see a reason why if people are able to go to work, then they should be able to do those races too. But triathlon's going to be hard because of all like so many people aren't just doing a triathlon for the sake of doing it. They're doing it to qualify for something else.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you work at, I feel bad for those race directors. I would not want to have to figure that out.
Yeah.
What if this is the year that they finally just have Kona just for Kona and it's not because of championships? Haven't they been talking about that for years? Saying have championships move around?
Well, what they did eventually was they developed championships in Europe, the European Championship, Pacific Championship, and
Right.
it was more to promote races, to be honest, so that people could go to a championship
Right.
race and stuff. A few years ago, I don't know. I guess my NDA would be gone by now, and I don't think it's that big a secret or anything. But they were trying to have Honu to be the half Ironman World Championship, and we got together and talked about whether we could pull it off because it would have to have not been in June. It would have had to been more around October, the regular Ironman.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one thing they could do is they could move the date.
Oh boy, that'd be tough though. I mean,
right, because then you're starting to get well, and then also Boston got moved to September. So although there is some overlap with people doing Boston and Ironman, but maybe no, actually, yeah, a lot of people would have done like Boston would have been their start of their year, and then they would shift gears and start focusing on getting ready for qualifiers and then Kona. You know what I would love to see happen with this? I just have this feeling they're not going to be able to pull off Ironman because nobody can qualify, which will it will be really sad for one reason. Well, me personally, it will be sad because my friend Danny Arnold, who is my twin,
Oh,
even though we are 20 years apart, our birthdays are one day apart. And if that, oh my gosh, I'm just going to say this right now. You need to interview Danny Arnold and you'll be like, it's Sarah, only a guy. He is really, if you talk to him, he's more entertaining than me and he has better stories because he's 20 years older. He finally got in through the legacy program this year.
oh, wow.
So I will be so sad. And he was going to show up like in time for both of us. He was like, I'm going to come early so we can celebrate our birthdays together. If they cancel it, that I'm going to be really sad. Like, what do you have to do? 12 Ironmans to get into the legacy program?
Yeah, and they've already said if the race is in October, and if it
yeah. And I was there for his first Ironman ever. I was there when he started this whole thing. So it was going to be really epic. Like, I wasn't doing Ironman yet, but I was there when he did his first Ironman, and then I was going to be there for him doing Kona.
Oh.
So it's going to be there for like the start and like the big accomplishment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I will be very sad on a personal note because I want Danny to have that experience, but also I would love to see people like still go out and do Ironman and do it like old school. Be like, well, they're not going to make it. Yeah, like back when there weren't sponsors and there weren't volunteers. I would love to see people just show up and be like, let's go back to our roots.
Well, what do you think about now because of the COVID-19 and stuff? A lot of people are doing virtual races.
Yeah.
In fact, they just had Ironman's got their whole series now where they do a virtual race, and I saw that Rinny didn't win because Tim unplugged the cord on her treadmill.
Oh, yeah. My gosh.
And then Jan Frodeno, I think Jan is doing an event, a virtual event for charity too. So what do you think about doing virtual races and stuff from you personally?
I think virtual races are an awesome idea because I think a lot of us really need something beyond. I mean, there are plenty of people like my husband who just runs to run. And if there was never another race again, he would still be running. But there are a lot of us who like races where we need that connection. We need something on our schedule to work towards, to look forward to have a purpose for getting up and working out. And virtual races or even virtual classes and workouts are giving people that way to stay connected when we feel very isolated right now. And it's giving people the motivation they need. Like, I have this class scheduled and I know all my friends are going to hop on Zoom and we're going to do this strength training class at the same time. I have this virtual race scheduled. Oh, and then there's the charity aspect. If you integrate that into this whole mix, doing something for someone, something that is bigger than you, someone that has a more dire situation than yours. So I think these virtual races and classes and then the charity aspect of it are, I think they're going to get a lot of people through this.
Yeah, I'll put a plug in for the Sunset 5K, which we had to cancel as part of Lava Man, where Janet,
which I love.
Janet has and Grant from Bikeworks have put out their 5K challenge. Anybody who you can
I'm rocking Bikeworks.
Yeah, very good. You can do a 5K this anytime this month, and then post it online and use hashtag, I think, Bikeworks and Lava Man and Sunset 5K, and they have the awards they already got. You know, they were ordered, they got them in and stuff, so they were gonna do a drawing then to hand out mugs and stuff.
Okay.
To people and stuff. So plug for those guys, and yeah. There are local, there are friends, you know, basically is what it comes down to.
Yep.
Not speaking of your husband, we'll ignore him, but you helped coach, didn't you? Last year before last?
Yeah, well, actually, I was a triathlon coach, even though I'm not certified in any of like any capacity. I helped coach triathletes back when I lived in upstate New York.
I didn't know that.
And
Wow.
then I coached, well, Patrick coached track for Konawaina. And then I was always at the meets. And that turned into David Wild inviting Patrick and I both to be his assistant coaches for cross country.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about Patrick. How did you meet Patrick?
Okay. I met Patrick on Instagram.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, Bree had kind of transitioned from triathlon to trail running at the same time as I had, and we had stayed in touch since I met her in 2009.
And just to interrupt a little bit, in case people don't know, we're talking about Bree Brown.
Who was Bree Wee at the time that I met her, yeah. And I'd stayed in touch with her. Whenever I would come to the island, she would like plan all these awesome like run adventures or invite me on whatever rides and swims she was doing, even though like I couldn't keep up with her. And so she and I really like bonded on another level over exiting triathlon and getting into trail running at the same time for different reasons. In fact, I was at her last Ironman ever. I surprised her and flew to Texas for the Woodlands Ironman. And so she had been saying like, oh, I'm going to start doing like trail ultras. And we would talk about it. And then I would also like see everything she would post on Instagram. And she was running with this, like all these crazy guys. It was like Patrick and Mikey and Billy. And I'm trying to figure, I can't remember who else she would, maybe J.E., the other Patrick, Joe Barsha. And I was like kind of following along as she was like, okay, I'm going to do my first trail race. Okay, I'm going to do my first trail ultra. And then it kind of became, well, like I was talking to her, but also following this. And at some point mentioned to her that I thought one of her training buddies was cute. And
which one was it? Was it Joe? Who was it?
It was Patrick. I mentioned to her that I thought he was cute, but I had also started following him on Instagram, and just he would post like these beautiful like these pictures of like where he ran, and then he like whatever deep thought had popped into his head or poetic notion would be like the caption. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love the way this guy thinks, and I love how he's like so inspired by nature, and I thought he was cute too, and mentioned it to Bree, and then told her like, I think I said, by the way, your friend Patrick's hot, but don't tell him. She of course turned around and like told him, and he then mentioned to her that he had been reading my blogs. So we'd been secretly like, I'd been following him on Instagram because of Bree and like admiring him from afar. He'd been he started following me and reading my blogs and admiring me from afar. Like I think he's the only person who's ever read every single one of my blogs. And that is how I ended up coming to Oahu in 2018 in January, because I knew I wanted to be there to see Bree run her first 100-mile race. But then I started talking to Patrick through Instagram message and then on the phone. And then I was like, okay, well, I have to meet this guy. So yeah, I met him in person the day before he ran hurt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy
smokes. And he had put me on his crew at that point.
I didn't realize that. So it was kind of a mutual stalking situation.
Yeah, like I would say admiring. I just like I would look forward to what he would post, and I would be like, Oh, good. I knew he'd be running this weekend. I was hoping to see like what he would say. And he was kind of doing the same thing with my writing. Like, we were telling each other this after the fact, like, I've been reading what you write like for months and you really inspire me. And we both like mutually felt inspired by the other one.
Very cool. And so that's only 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Wow. It's got to be meant to be then, I would think.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like looking back, we had all these mutual friends too.
Yeah.
They were people that knew, like, and there were races that we both did, but like for whatever reason we didn't meet or we weren't there the same. Like the one year he missed, I think I did Macathon and then he did it and then I did it and he was in Pennsylvania that year. But like David Wild, Sarah and James Reeser, Bree, Kavika, all these people knew of both of us and we kind of like knew of each other too. But it wasn't until 2018 that we actually met.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's true love. So to
Yeah.
the dudes out there who may be watching this, there you go, dudes. Just you can actually meet the person of your dreams out on Instagram as
You
long
can. And
as
here is my biggest tip. I and Patrick will say this in his own words. If you interview him, we'll let him speak for himself. I am convinced that you cannot meet your soulmate until you're in love with your own life. And I was very intentional for all of 2017 about what would a life that I'm in love with look like. I don't want to be in love with a person. I want to be in love with my life. And then whoever that person is, he'll find me once I figure out how to be in love with my own life.
wow, that's great. I mean, that goes along with what your PT person was saying too. You know, it's like you define yourself
Yeah.
first, you
Yeah.
know, and then the rest hopefully will follow. You've had to, I don't want to say downsize, you've had to simplify your life, you know, this last year, basically,
Yeah.
right? And it seems that, you know, I read your blog a couple days ago after you had posted it and stuff, and very insightful to a lot of things that people I think should do. And you seem to have done it without remorse, which I think is great.
Yeah. Not without challenges, but without remorse.
So what are some of the challenges that you faced? I mean, basically you went from a different one situation of living to a less complicated situation.
Yeah, definitely less complicated. I think the biggest challenge is just life on the mainland and especially on the East Coast. I lived in New York and then I lived outside of Boston. What you're told in those communities that you should value and you should pour your life into is so different from what we value primarily what we value in Hawaii and on the Big Island. And even though I knew from coming here year after year after year, that's what I'm after. Those are the people that I relate to. This way of living, this whole idea of aloha really resonated with me. And that was, I was like, that's where I'm headed. That's how I want to live. That's who I want to be. But like growing up it was 40 years on the mainland. That's really hard to undo those habits and those ways of thinking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the direction, was there one thing that directed you towards that, or was there like one?
What, like the whole idea of minimalism or the whole like live aloha kind of?
Well, your personal change in direction and stuff. Was it meeting Patrick is what changed it, or?
No, I think that's why Patrick and I connected, is because I had already started as much as possible. I had made that change. No, it was coming here and then hanging out with people like Bree and Kavika,
Yeah.
and then going back to my life on the mainland and feeling like I couldn't relate to, feeling like wow, how was I so much happier when all I had was a little suitcase, a backpack, and my like swim goggles and my running shoes. And and my laptop for writing. And I was so much happier. And then I would go back to the mainland and I had this big house full of stuff, 3 bikes just for me.
Wow.
And like had an RVs that we could like live in on the weekends so that we could like for races. Huge RV was what we would take to races. I had all these like I had a job where I made money and had all this stuff, and I was like, I'm not happy. Like I kind of felt like I was a slave to all that stuff, and I was very discontent. And I had this like A and B, like which situation is Sara like feel most alive, and started like donating bags of things to consignment shops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Started Google searching like minimalism, watching TED Talks on it, and I was like, because at that point it was not an option to move to Hawaii because I was married to someone who had a business
Yeah.
in upstate New York. So I was like, I can't move to Hawaii. So what can I do though to kind of pare down things and simplify my life? And I really felt like I was like this rebel, not trying to be like, people really didn't get it.
Oh, so the friends and family back there kind of going, "What's up with Sara?"
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely like a foreign concept to a lot of people. But I was like, well, that's who I need to be to live with myself. And I was like, if I lose relationships, which I did, over making these life changes and deciding these 5 things matter to me and those 200 other things don't, I was like, then they're not supposed to be part of my life. And more people left than I anticipated.
Yeah, funny how that works sometimes.
Yeah. But like for the better, I think. But then also I've made room for all these people to come into my life who do understand where I'm coming from.
Well, and I think you made the right decision and stuff, but it sounds like I think that people know, anybody who knows you know and love this Sara, and
Thank you.
probably might not have loved the other Sara.
No, she was intense,
Wait,
and
you're not intense? Wait a minute.
um, no, intense. Like I would have said to you, honestly, I would have said I can't do that. I can't be on your podcast because I have to train. And if I'm not,
One of those. Yeah.
and if I'm not training, I'm taking a nap or I'm like cleaning my bike or so. I'm really so that kind of intense.
So
I just like that, Sara.
what's your situation now as far as what you think, what you want to do in the future? Do you want your writing to go in a certain direction, or don't you know? Or I mean,
I do, and it'll be interesting to see how long it takes. It was really pretty close to where I wanted it to be before this whole COVID-19 thing happened. That has definitely set me back. But now I saw like, okay, I was almost there. And now that like I have the confidence to know like I can get back there, but um, there's well, like for instance, I was writing for Kaola magazine, still am,
yeah.
and Wasabi, and was in the middle of articles for them when they just said we are putting the next issue on hold. Um, Therefore, the articles I was working on are on hold because advertisers are pulling out.
Oh yeah.
But and then I have clients that I write for. I write for my friend Kaiten, who he has a company called KMV Digital, but then he is also launching a brand of low FODMAP spices and chicken stock.
Oh,
after finding out that FODMAPs are a small chain carbohydrate, and he found out the very hard way that he's intolerant of them. Once he found out there are not a lot of products for people who are FODMAP intolerant on the market. So he was gonna make it. He's making the products.
oh,
And I'm helping him with his website. He has a FODMAP eating guide that I'm helping him with. And then I also write for, I kind of do like the website, the blogs, the social media for Change the Game Performance Therapy. And that's Dr. Ryan, who's helping me with my hip. And it's not actually, with this whole COVID-19 thing, it's been a blessing that I have this balance of like your traditional magazine writer with these articles in print, and then the non-traditional, which when I was an English major, and if you had told me, oh, someday you're going to get paid to write landing pages and product descriptions and blogs, that wasn't even a thing then.
yeah.
But if I didn't have that to do, I would be in trouble right now.
Yeah.
Because those are the only things that are still up and running.
Yeah. I think it's challenging for a lot of people, but I think it's also the opportunity, through the impetus of finances for people to get creative.
Yeah.
To actually think about stuff and think about what they want to do and think about how they want to do it and go into those areas that maybe they didn't have the courage before, but now.
What do you have to lose? Now everybody's kind of like, well, I have nothing to lose, so why not try? Yeah. I like again, the magazines are on hold. I don't think it's gonna be like the magazines are gonna fold because of this, but it might be a while before they publish something again.
Mm-hmm.
But I look forward to getting back to that point where I can write for the magazines, because that gets me out in the community. I get to go interview these really cool people all over the island, and get to even like kind of walk in their shoes. I got to spend a day with the manager of a forest preserve putting up fence to keep feral pigs out. Like, so I want that to be a part of my life as a writer. But then I also, again, appreciate more now than ever that I do have digital clients, and everything they need from me is for their website or social media. It's a good balance. It makes me a well-rounded writer. But yeah, we'll have to see if anybody needs help with their website. I have some free time because there's no magazines getting published.
How can people get a hold of you?
So the best way to get a hold of me is my website. My email is there on my website, and it's just sarastover.com. And it's Sara, S-A-R-A, that's a 4-letter word. So sarastover.com, best way to see samples of my writing, best way to get in touch with me. And if you have questions about running, I always remind people that's still a huge part of my life. I'm always there to talk to people about triathlon, trail running, and I'm on the other side of it. So
if you want to doing coaching stuff too? Are you still coaching?
No, I'm not coaching anymore. Cross country will start back up, I guess, in August. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I loved working with those kids. Yeah, if I go back to coaching, it would be in that capacity, working with the cross country kids.
Thank you. Mahalo for so much of your time today, Sara. I really.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, I have to go pick up Patrick now. I do.
We don't know this Patrick guy and stuff. Well, say hi for me. And again, thanks so much for giving me the time, giving the people who are viewing the time, to experience a little bit of your world. We still have some more interviews that we'll probably follow up, certainly.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm going to go up to the digital world up here on the top. And like I warned you, digitally, I'm going to remove you, but only
okay.
Digitally. Okay.
Sayonara.
Aloha.
Aloha.
that was just wonderful to have that. Gosh, I guess we've been at it for an hour and a half and stuff here. But again, thanks to Sara Stover, and she just mentioned that her website is sarastover.com. So it's SARASTOVER.com. And go visit her website. You can read a lot of her writings, or at least get to the beginning point where you can get a hold of her and stuff and experience, her writings and stuff. I have to thank, of course, Tailwind. You see Tailwind over here, for making me a Tailwind trailblazer this year. So I've gotten a lot of product. Actually, I still have plenty of stuff that I've gotten, and the rebuild, especially right here, the rebuild. I've been using that as I've been as active as I've been lately. But my plug for my site would be, if you search on iTunes or on YouTube, you can search for Big Island Hawaii Ultra, and you'll find both the audio versions and the video versions of our little podcast here. And you can subscribe, and if I do things correctly, you can subscribe up on the, let's bring it here, up here, that's subscribe up here. This up here will actually show you the next video or one of the past videos and stuff. But you can also help us out by going to our website at Patreon. So it's www.patreon.com/Hawaii Ultra. And if you could donate a cup of coffee an episode, or 2 cups of coffee, or whatever you can, would certainly be appreciated in these challenging times. And you can always email me personally, no problem with that, is at joe@joefireball.com. And I'll explain another episode about the fireball thing that I got kind of tagged on to me. But you can email me there. And you can also go directly to the website, which is www.HawaiiUltra.com. And hope everybody's having a good Saturday, Easter weekend. I hope you're staying safe. You're staying inside as much as you can, but still getting out and being healthy. Aloha.